There's never been a year like 2025 for Disney. Snow White was a mess, and Captain America could not retain its fan base. They tried releasing originals through Pixar, but even Elio could not restore their lost audience, leaving Disney with no other option than to blame fans for their failure. Disney is dying and dragging innocent studios with them. From controversy to taking the record for the biggest fall from grace of an entertainment giant within a decade. The worst part about Disney is they were not always like this. You see, the Disney you know today that has built a reputation on ruining their IPs at one point was the best animation studio in the world that made movies so good they defined cultural eras. What made Disney so relatable and soulful was the emotion and effort put into each movie. The Lion King stampede scene, for example, which played a role in defining Simba's character, took over 3 years to animate because Disney wanted to show the weight of Mufasa's death without traumatizing the audience. So in an effort to create perfection, they worked on it again and again, from animation down to the soundtrack, for 3 years. And if you've watched the movie, you'll know it was worth the effort.
Long live the king.
The Lion King was so good that it won 2 Academy Awards and a Golden Globe Award. If you go back even further, you'll notice this was a common practice for Disney. Perfection was their bread and butter, and it was all thanks to the code Walt Disney lived by. One of his famous quotes, "We don't make movies to make money. We make money to make more movies," highlighted his commitment to prioritizing quality films that resonated with fans long-term over quantity films that satisfied shareholders' short-term gains. A mentality that Disney would later flip on its head after he died. He created the first full-length animation with sound with the release of Steamboat Willie, a film that laid the foundation for one of the most popular characters we know today, Mickey Mouse. But Walt did not stop there. By 1934, he set his eye on a bigger project, this time a full-length feature film with sound, color, and music. Everybody told him it was impossible, but according to Walt, it's kind of fun to do the impossible, and the impossible he did. To say groundbreaking when describing Snow White was an understatement. Not only was Disney making the first feature-length animated movie, but he was also taking the entire art form in a completely new direction. Up until Snow White, animation was flat, with everything moving on a single plane. But Walt wanted to create something more immersive, something that would make audiences feel like they were stepping into a new world, a Disney world. After 2 million sketches and 750 artists later, Snow White was born. But Walt did not try to repeat the success of Snow White. He specifically stated, "I do not like to repeat successes. I like to go on to other things."
Jesus Christ.
Hell no, man. What the
Instead of milking Snow White with remakes, he went after other adventures, pushing himself even further to give us Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi, The Three Caballeros, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and my favorite from this era, Peter Pan. If cancer didn't get to him at 65, he would have been unstoppable and could have potentially saved Disney from its imminent downfall. Disney was a company built on innovation, imagination, and creativity. But between 2001 and 2015, Disney lost all three, starting with innovation. Unlike what people would have you believe, Disney's downfall didn't actually start with Bob Iger. It actually started with Michael Eisner. In a 1981 memo, Eisner wrote, "We have no obligation to make history. We have no obligation to make art. We have no obligation to make a statement. To make money is our only objective." Eisner believed the purpose of Disney movies was to make money first and art later, which goes against everything Walt stood for. And for a moment, it worked. Their movies broke world records because they still had good people who cared about the art. But without good leadership, Disney would soon begin to face a crisis of a lifetime. Between 2001 and 2005, new animation studios began to rise, bringing fresh stories and creativity to the screen. By this time, people had grown tired of the classic Disney formula.
Leave me alone!
Good versus evil, lovable characters, and predictable happy endings. Studios like Pixar redefined the industry with hits like Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Monsters, and probably their best works, The Incredibles, which broke box office records. Meanwhile, DreamWorks pushed the boundary even further with films like Shrek, Shark Tale, and Madagascar. These movies didn't just break away from Disney's traditional storytelling pattern, they mocked it, calling out its predictability, lack of originality, and refusal to evolve.
Mirror, mirror, show her to me. Show me the princess.
Bruh.
Ah.
The characters were fresh, more realistic, and deeply relatable, a sharp contrast to the polished perfection of Disney's heroes. They had flaws, sarcasm, and a kind of humor that felt human. They featured wild, unpredictable plots that took creative risks, the kind that made adults laugh just as much as kids, while still carrying emotional depth that resonated with millions of fans. Instead of going back to the drawing board to fix the growing problem with Disney, aka their story, Eisner decided the best course of action was to pump out more movies. And so they did. Movies like Treasure Planet, Atlantis, Brother Bear, Home on the Range, Chicken Little. This marked the first time in Disney's 78-year history that 5 consecutive films not only flopped at the box office, but also failed to impress audiences critically. The films were not actually criticized for their animation, but more for their uninspired scripts. Analysts said that the films felt big on formula and small on storyline, and they were not wrong. By this time, you would expect Michael Eisner's Disney to have learnt their lesson. Audiences want good stories, not more movies. Everybody was waiting for a Disney comeback with one interesting movie that would be so groundbreaking it would show the entire industry who's king. But again, that's not what they did. Instead, Michael Eisner decided that the best course of action was to see the death of 2D animation and migrate to CGI. Hence the animation style that defined Disney's legacy shutdown in Orlando in an attempt to keep up with competition and save money. You can see how the mentality began shifting from we make money to make movies to we make movies to make money. A studio that pioneered an entire animation style. A studio with a founder that pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible had been reduced to a profit-seeking, half-baked animation company that made movies to save money and consolidate power. Associates of Disney at that time described Eisner as a soulless, obsessive micromanager, interested only in making a quick buck. This week's video is sponsored by War Thunder. The most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made is out now for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. It's one of the best games I've ever played. You can choose between battles in the air, on land, or on water. And they're frankly all super fun to play. You can take charge of over 2,500 tanks, air support, and naval ships of 10 major nations, ranging from the 1920s all the way to the modern war machines of today. Every tank, plane, and helicopter is incredibly detailed, which is the cherry on top for the crazy combat experience. What I like the most is the X-ray view feature that shows me exactly what happens when an enemy destroys my tank or when I destroy theirs. War Thunder also has a mobile version of the game for those of you that prefer gaming on your phone for both iOS and Android, allowing you to take the battlefield wherever you go. The mobile version features are easy to control with impressive graphics and a massive multiplayer warfare in ground, sea, and air battle. Thanks again to War Thunder. New and returning players that haven't played for 6 months on PC and consoles can use my links in the pinned comment or description and obtain a massive bonus pack that contains premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium. Over the course of his 19 years at Disney, a number of executives resigned due to their frustrations with Eisner, one of which was Jeffrey Katzenberg. Jeffrey understood Walt's vision, a vision he brought to life through films like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King in an era that would later be known as the Disney Renaissance, because every film they made during this era was a global success. But in 1994, after working at Disney for 10 years, he left the company to form DreamWorks due to his frustration with Eisner. Essentially, the failure of Disney led to the creation of one of their biggest competitors on the market. If I was Eisner, I would have voluntarily stepped down as CEO after seeing all the numerous disasters I created for the company built on originality, but again, that's not what he did. Instead, he stubbornly held to his position until shareholders, realizing he was destroying their company, finally forced him to resign in September of 2005. After all the company had been through, they needed somebody who could steer them in the right direction, and so Bob Iger was born, the man who would complete what Eisner had started. By this time, Disney had lost both its innovation and imagination, and Bob Iger didn't want to take any chances. Instead of fixing the problems that audiences had been complaining about for years, Bob Iger decided the best course of action was to buy out every competitor on the market who posed a threat to the Disney empire. He bought Marvel for $4 billion, Lucasfilms for another $4 billion, and Pixar for $7 billion, and absolutely ran each of these studios to the ground. Today, both Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilms have all been drained of their juice. Marvel used to be something special. Movies like Iron Man made me fall in love with superhero movies, but after Endgame, everything went downhill. Disney demanded the studio make more movies to please investors as they did in the early 2000s, and so garbage content was born.
money, fuck a hoe. Can't cuff no nigga, he gon' go. If you got it, throw some more. Spend that money, you ain't broke. Shake that money maker, show me what your mama gave you. Got it out the mud, it ain't a nigga out here said I made you. Bitches think they cute, the hoes be chicken like the commentators. If I see you with your booty, babe, you know I gotta take them.
You know, the truth is, when we were doing phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, there were less projects over more years.
What's wrong with him?
He's pissed. He thinks he failed, which of course he did, but you know, there's a lot of that going around, ain't there?
They took Marvel, turned it into a complete joke of a studio, and caused a superhero fatigue for one of the best studios on the planet. And they were not the only one. The Pixar everybody loved unfortunately faced the same fate under Disney. In 2025, Elio had the worst performing box office opening in Pixar's history. And Star Wars got so many spin-offs that dedicated fans got a Star Wars fatigue for one of the most impactful franchises of our generation. It got to a point that people started to believe that anything Disney touches turns to dust. You may have heard people say the same thing. A studio that was not capable of keeping its fan base was buying other studios and telling them how to keep their fan base by making more movies. In the process, losing an important part of their audience they didn't know they needed: men.
Stop! Stop now, come back! I love you!
Whether you agree or not, men have historically made up a large part of Disney's empire. Both Star Wars and Marvel appealed to millions of men around the world because of the nature of superheroes movies. However, in 2025, Disney lost more male audiences than they've ever lost in a long time, and they have nobody to blame but themselves.
I love you!
Liar!
When She-Hulk first premiered, a lot of people were excited for the series, including me. On paper, it had everything going for it: an already established fan base from the Hulk, a promise of a new character, and hopes of character crossovers. But once the episodes started rolling out, that excitement quickly turned into frustration for a large portion of audiences. The character had no development, always acted like she was better than everyone else, and most importantly, treated people that were more experienced than her like trash. It's no wonder why the show failed to get a second season. Even worse, if you didn't like the show, you were accused of sexism or misogyny, which only divided the fan base more. On one hand were people that liked the idea that Disney was pushing more female characters into the spotlight, and on the other hand were people that felt like Disney was giving their female characters no opportunity for development, which made them boring and unlikable. And this is just one of the many shows Disney blamed audiences for. It got so bad that videos calling Disney out for their obvious failed attempts to save themselves racked in millions of views on YouTube. For the first time in years, audiences were united on a common cause against Disney.
Most superheroes do not earn their abilities in such a way. Their powers are forced upon them through chance or freak accident, and that's fine. However, to then earn the power given them, the hero should have to struggle in some way to grow into his or her abilities. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie is a classic example of this. Peter Parker is given superpowers through a random spider bite, but he doesn't instantly know what to do with his newfound abilities, nor even how to put them to proper use. There are significant growing pains as he learns to be the hero he now must become. A more recent example of this trope that was done fairly well is Kate Bishop from The Hawkeye Show that at least 20 people watched. Despite being an incredibly talented archer and martial artist from the get-go, Kate is woefully inexperienced in the world of crime fighting, and has to learn how to apply her skills in each new situation, relying on the mentorship of Hawkeye himself. On the flip side, we have characters like She-Hulk and Rey Skypatine. Rey's progression through her Jedi training was basically just whatever the plot required at any given moment. Jen Walters woke up as She-Hulk and immediately was in full control of her alter ego. The central struggles that defined the characters from whom these heroines were derived are just stripped away and not replaced by anything meaningful. Jen's defining character moment takes place during a group therapy session when she comes to the realization that she needs to accept that she doesn't need to be She-Hulk to find acceptance. That's right, the apex of Jen's character arc is her deciding that she can be herself. This wasn't an issue, by the way, until after the She-Hulk persona was present. Prior to her accident, Jen appeared to be quite satisfied with her life. For some unknown reason, she only decided to get into the dating scene after spending some time as a giant green monster, and then found out apparently there's no market for a reasonably attractive 30-something-year-old lawyer in Los Angeles. I don't know about you, but to me that feels a bit contrived.
The poor writing of female characters, combined with the complete lack of development, ended up uniting the entire fan base against Disney.
I am a woman, and I am also a woman of color. Thankfully, it's not green, and I too did not like the show.
To many, it was not about race or gender. It was about a show that didn't pay any respect to the fans or supporting characters. Disney lost an unbelievable amount of money, from its streaming services to its movies, and even its long-standing brand loyalty. You'd think after years of failure, they would have learned their lesson. But 2025 proved that Disney isn't ready for change. This year was supposed to be their big comeback, filled with sequels to some of the most beloved franchises on the planet. Instead, one after another, they flopped at the box office. Snow White, Captain America, Fantastic Four. And the few that didn't completely bomb still struggled to connect with fans. Disney is finally paying the price for turning its back on its audience. The company that once stood for innovation, imagination, and creativity has lost all three. Every year, their fan base fractures even more because Disney can't stay out of controversy. Last year, it was Elon Musk. This year, it's Jimmy Kimmel. And every time Disney Plus takes the hit, the once mighty studio that built its empire on originality now feels like it's crumbling under the weight of its own mistakes. Disney needs a savior fast before it tears itself apart in the rush to chase trends. Remember, if you want to check out War Thunder, new players or people that haven't played in 6 months receive a massive bonus pack on PC and consoles that includes multiple premium vehicles, exclusive vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. Again, thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video, and thank you to my amazing audience for supporting my channel.